since I did a few good reviews. It's probably like October, November last year. It's been a long time. I've been not as eager to do videos like this, more because I want to focus on other things. But I did think there was quite a few releases out fairly recently that were worth talking about, and didn't really have a huge amount to say on each individual one. So it seemed like the best time to bring this back. Hopefully you enjoy this video, and let's get it started. Some really good, really bloody good sound collage type music coming from an artist named Space Afrika. I believe they're a duo, but I don't know much about them at all because they've kind of just come out of nowhere here for me. But this is just so lovely. It's like this really like stripped back, sparse soul type stuff that they've obviously like chopped up and broken up into this sort of like more sound collage type of stuff here. Honestly, if you're a fan of like Slows and Malone, that dropped the album last year, you would love this, because this has just got such a wide like spread of an audience for that kind of stuff. And you would definitely dig this if you've liked stuff like that in the past. It's just so lovely. It's such a lovely listen, and there's so many recognizable voices too that they sample. Obviously don't want to say them because I feel like it's a bit of a spoiler, but when you kind of play it and you go, I know who that is, it's kind of cool. But yeah, it's not on streaming services. You'll have to find this on Bandcamp. I think it's a name your price type of deal as well. So they're clearly just giving this away essentially for free, which is crazy because it deserves way more attention. But I thought it was better to throw it in here rather than do a separate video for it on its own, because it just wouldn't get that many views. But I feel as though you're going to be more likely to hear about it in a video like this. But it is really nice, really nice. I feel like the next album that they put out will be a bit more adventurous. I feel like they're going to go in a direction that's just really interesting, even more so than what they're doing here. So I'm hyped to see where they go. So like, aside from the opening track on this Katy Perry album, there's just nothing here for me. The vocals generally just very bland. It feels like everything that made her so good in like 2008 to 2010, that was a good era for Katy Perry. Her biggest songs ever came out during that time. Her best songs ever came out during that time. Like, they're certified pop classics at this point. Tracks like I Kissed a Girl, Hot and Cold, Teenage Dream, even, you know, other tracks that I'm not as big on, like California Girls. They're definitely massive pop hits that have stood the test of time for a lot of people. A lot of nostalgia for, you know, people who were teenagers at that time. Like, she just had it. She had a selling point, and it was good. It was good. But now, just none of those things are really there. This album's just so meh. Like, there's just like not a hit here. First track, yeah, I'll take it. But every other track, like, some of the lyrics are pretty empowering. You know, you can tell she's writing from a place that, you know, means something to her, but she's just not selling the songs at all. And some of the instrumentals are just so blah. There's just not a hit here. Like, there isn't a hit song here. I just don't see it. But yeah, I don't know, man. She's just lost that it factor, the it factor. It's just gone. These tracks are just whatever. It could be written by anyone, could be sung by anyone, and you wouldn't even know. There's just something so missing here, and it's kind of weird to see her get to this point. I'm just not really that big on the Lemon Twigs. I thought their Go to School album was pretty cool because it had this very grandiose, over-the-top charm to it that I really quite thought was likable. Wasn't in love with the album, but I definitely saw a lot of qualities in it. They definitely take influence from, you know, different eras of music, and this new album just feels like kind of like a pastiche, sort of like a 70s glam rock type stuff. I think if you're a big fan of that, you will like what they're doing here. But, you know, I think a lot of artists like Kyle Craft, for example, do this type of sound, and it's cool for what it is, but it doesn't really always stick the landing, I don't think. Just feels like an homage. I definitely get the appeal of Lemon Twigs, but it just doesn't really strike me, unfortunately. I love the hell out of the last Dent May album, Across the Multiverse, which came out in 2017 now. Really lovely, sunshiny, twee pop type stuff. It's not the most inventive thing you'll ever hear, but he does that style justice. He does it so well that it's quite hard to say no to. And this new album here is sort of a continuation of that, but the tunes just aren't as strong. I don't think the music is quite as engaging. I still think it's a nice listen overall, because Dent May as a performer is really good. I just generally like listening to his vocals because they are just really soft and sweet. There's a sugary vibe here going on this album. Some of the choruses are a bit cheesy at points. I think that's the issue with this album here this time around, hitting some borderline cheesy moments which take me out of it quite a bit. But he always gives me those Randy Newman vibes, which I just love Randy Newman anyway, so anything that reminds me of that I'm pretty okay with. So yeah, the Dent May album, not as good as his last one, but I think it's still worth your listen. So you may remember I wasn't too fond of the last Angel Olsen album. Yeah, I wasn't too fan. No, I wasn't a big fan of that. But we do have some like demo-ish versions, demo quality type recordings of some of those tracks landing onto this new one here. And you would think maybe, just maybe, for someone like me, this might have been a better album, a better listen, but it kind of takes us back to the earlier days of what Angel was doing on her 2014 release, which I wasn't really a fan of either. So essentially, we have a companion piece that I also don't really like. So yeah, there's not much to say here, I guess. The rough type of recordings could appeal to some people. You may miss the strings because the strings were heavy on All Mirrors, but I don't really know who this album is catered to. Maybe if you're just such a big fan of her, you will like this just as like an extra piece of music, but honestly, it's just whatever to me. Quite interesting how the Streisand effect came into play by boosting this album here through bizarre events, which I'm not going to get into, but I'm kind of glad it happened because this is actually really good. Redveil shows a huge amount of potential from an early age, a really young age actually, and yeah, sure, you can compare it to Mike, Earl, Navy Blue, any artist that's doing the slums kind of thing at the moment, that abstract hip-hop thing, Mavi, you could compare it to that, but I think, you know what, it's getting a bit lazy doing that because Redveil actually provides something a little bit different on these tracks. I think he's showing us that there's more to offer, and I think in the future he's going to put out a really good album. This is already actually really quite good anyway, but I think this is just a sign of things to come. Again, the weird way that this album came about is strange, but I'm kind of glad I found out about it in some kind of way, because I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes. It's a name that I'm now going to be looking out for, which I hadn't prior to things. Honestly, never been like the biggest fan of Bright Eyes, like never been that huge on them, but I think they're pretty good. I like some of their stuff. There's some of their material I have yet to hear, so maybe that's the material that I need to hear to change my mind on them or something, but this new album certainly is not going to be the one that brings any new fans in, and it's probably going to do more disappointments than anything, because I don't really feel as though this is like a massive like return to form. It's very aimless. The tracks just don't have that much in them that's gripping. The instrumentals are just very fine. They're just fine. Connor's voice at times is a bit bland, I find. There's just something very aimless about this. The tracks just don't go anywhere. There's a few towards the end that start to pick up, but it didn't really save the album, and it felt like it was far too late in the day to start throwing in these kind of tracks. It should have been from start to finish more like vibrant and more fuller instrumentals, you know? So I really like that Japanese house album from last year. I thought it had some stellar songs on there, particularly You Seem So Happy. But this EP just strips that away somehow. I thought the second track was really quite good. Probably on the level of some of the really stronger tracks on the album that came out last year. Good at Falling. But then you've got like the Bon Iver feature, which I think is really poor. one of the tracks is just so short to the point where it barely adds anything to the EP. It's a weird little listen because it just didn't have many of the qualities that I came to expect from Japanese house. So hopefully it's just a little bump in the road, maybe, you know, maybe there'll be an album next year that's a lot better than this, but for an EP it's not really looking promising, I must admit. Not really getting anything out of this. Some really nice ambient field recordings type stuff from an artist named Raj Anand, not an artist I'm fully familiar with, but this debut album, Strawberry, seems to be promising. I like the direction that he's going in here with this music. It's really blissful, it's really pretty at points. Definitely feels as though this is going to be something that, you know, your average music nerd that's interested in ambient type music would definitely take an interest in, could easily love this type of stuff. And yeah, I'm just interested to see where they go next, because this was a really nice listen. I feel as though it could be a bit more adventurous, a bit more daring next time around, but I'm glad that they're now on my radar, because this is certainly a release that I enjoyed, and I hope you check it out as well. I still don't get City Morgue. Struggle with City Morgue. Their sound is just really high energy, in your face. Most of the time these guys are just shouting, and they start the song shouting and they carry on shouting throughout the entire song, and it just gets really, really boring to me. It's not hype or not really exciting to listen to, because they start at 100 and then they kind of have nowhere to go. I feel like some of the tracks need to be structured a little differently. They bang so hard, but like it just does nothing for me. It's weird. I like a good banger every now and then, but this is just not really appealing to my ears. It's strange, but I think City Morgue are just very not for me. Very not for me. I don't think I'm ever going to like anything they do. I love Slide by George Clanton, right? I think Slide is magnificent. Just a wonderful, wonderful album that has this great blend of like chill wave and synth pop and even like vaporwave elements too. It's such a great listen. George Clanton isn't the most like distinct singer in the world, but he sold the shit out of that with his passionate delivery. But then you've got this Nick Hexum guy on this album here. Hopefully it's just a one-off collaboration, because I don't know who this guy is, but his voice is not very good to listen to at all, and it barely matches the instrumentals, and the recording quality of some of these instrumentals is really whack, like really whack. They sound like demos that they've not been properly finished. And then you've got this guy's voice, which is just horrendous. Oh, what a weird collaboration. Maybe just a one-off thing, but if this is the future for George Clanton, then I am not looking forward to it, because I did not like this at all. And that's the video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know these videos aren't as descriptive and aren't as detailed as you may want them to be, but it is just summing up my general thoughts on each album. Don't know when the next one will be. Like I say, I'm not going to be doing these that often, but if you do want more of them, let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this video. Let me know your thoughts on any of the albums mentioned here. Have a good day, subscribe if you haven't already, and goodbye.